I'm Dan Rossiter. This is Sharon. We're here at Doubledale Farm, Jefferson County, New York. We did a little touring, mostly in Indiana, and the people there that milked with robots and with other systems all seemed to say that they thought the robots were the future. So we kind of wanted to give it a try. And, one thing that enters into it is the farm. When you think of replacing a parlor or something, it's kind of a nightmare to think about. You know, getting the cows milked and or getting barns built when they're full of cows and all that. And this was kind of the easiest way to do that. You know, you could build up a new barn, move half the cows here, milk them here, and then now we have the freedom to kind of do what we want over there. We can knock down an old barn and put up a new parlor, or we can add on to the other barn here and put some robots there and run the milk into this milk house. I mean, we fired it up here September 28th, this past fall. Guys were busy right up until then.
Pete, you know, we got into this project and talking about robots. Can you tell me a little bit about what you guys were thinking and why you wanted to make that change, and then maybe a little bit of, did you look at other brands and why you ended up with Lely?
We started looking at robots because we have a double 12 parallel parlor, and it was old and it was starting to get worn out, so we had to look at some options. We started looking at robots. The efficiency and the gains, and again, cow comfort was probably our biggest thing. We went and looked at several Lely barns, and we did look at some dealer valve barns and out in Western New York as well. And we liked the free flow designs that Lely had, and that was kind of probably one of the bigger reasons we went that direction.
So Pete, you're looking at the computer screen there, and there's a lot of pretty little dials on there, and can you tell us a little bit about what you do as a herd manager on a daily basis with the software, and what things do you think really matter, and the things that you look at every day?
Well, just a quick overglance with all these little gauges here, you can get a pretty good overview of the entire barn as far as the milk production, the visits, the refusals, the failures, even our box time and our free time. And then I can also go through and look at each individual group, because we have 4 different groups, and see how they're comparing to each other.
Okay.
Especially as the numbers grow, we're still new at this, so we're trying to figure that all out. And then on a daily basis, I'm going to go through and I'm going to look at the health report. And then there's an utter health report for mastitis. And then another report I'm constantly checking is the failed milkings to figure out who's failing and why they're failing, to see if we can
So
fit
what
the cow
are your
issue.
failed milkings today?
2.
Yeah. So that's a very nice number.
Yep.
Takes some effort to get to that.
It does.
Yeah, you got to really focus on it. It's a pretty low number for what we see. How about reproduction?
Yep, there's a reproduction list or graph as well. It's a live data. It's getting pulled off the collar, so they don't have to necessarily go through the robot. Unlike the AFI and the parlor, it only read it when they came through the parlor, and it gives you a pretty good window. And when the dot gets the green, that's the optimum time to breed the cows.
So you haven't been in it terribly long. Have you been able to see any change in your pregnancy rate?
We've been in here about 6 months. I haven't seen any huge gains right off, but we haven't lost anything, so We're still maintaining.
And you had a heat detection system.
We had heat detection prior, so
good. Good. On the production side,
we've come up on the production side compared to the parlor. Yes, we're 85 pounds a cow, or 86 pounds a cow over here, average right now. Over the parlor, we probably had seen we were about 80. We had dropped a little bit before that, before we came over here, but so we're 5-6 pounds more than we're over there.
Cool. What do you attribute that to? Kind of the combination of everything?
I think it's a combination of everything. I think it might have be a little bit higher in the future. I think right now, though, we have so many fresh heifers over here. The majority of the 2/3 of the barn is probably first lactation.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So-
So 85 pounds is pretty. 86 pounds is really good
Right.
for first lactation animals. And on the health report and the other health report. So how aggressive are you looking at those and taking action?
Definitely looking at them every morning, and then writing those cows down, and then going to check cows to physically see what I'm seeing. Try to be aggressive on it. I mean, it's a pretty good gauge of catching the cows early on.
So overall, do you feel that the fresh cow health has gotten better since you were able to go to this new facility?
I think the fresh cows do a lot better taking off. There's a lot less metabolic problems. We're pulling them out in here once a week and on a Monday, and it depends on when they freshen, so they could come over here fresh that day or a weekend, but before we leave them in a fresh group for 3 to 4 weeks before they get put into a high group, and we're eliminating that. So
now on the udder health mastitis side of it, we know you have collectors out in the barn, and your barn is, compared to most freestyle barns, is a very clean barn in terms of the amount of manure on the floor. Have you seen that correlate to lower mastitis rates or slower cell count? It's too soon to tell.
it's too soon to tell, I think, but the somatic cell's been running pretty good in this barn, so we're happy.
So Pete, this is a nice facility you have. Can you tell me a little bit about the layout and the design and what you really like about it and what you might think you might want to change if you had to do all over again?
It's a 6-row barn with outside feed alleys. We have the robot barn dead center of the barn. So those head-to-head stalls are a little bit wider, and we have a walkway so we can introduce the cows and get the chemicals to the room. That was pretty nice. And then with having the robot room in the middle of the barn, it helps in the winter time as far as heating it, with using the cows to keep the room warm. We have an insulated barn, and then there's 96 fans, all variable speed, independently controlled. We have cupola fans, so there's plenty of ventilation in this barn. We wanted cow comfort in this barn, so with the idea of 60 cows per robot, 120 per group, we have 4 groups. We have 120 stalls, a stall per cow. There's over 100 headlocks in each group, so cow comfort was the biggest design in this barn.
Yeah, and it shows. The cows look very good and they're very comfortable.
One of the other things we just talked about was manure. We were back and forth on alley scrapers, and then after looking at some other barns, we started talking with you about the collectors. And we went with the collectors, and we're really happy with those so far. I mean, the cows are just clean because the alleyways are always so clean.
Yeah, I remember at startup, I was quite concerned about the collectors and starting them up the same time as the robots, and I thought the cows would all pile to one end, and it did not happen at all. They were very calm around the collectors, so we were quite pleased with that. On terms of labor and what it takes, you have 8 robots and give or take 400 cows in this barn, a little better than that probably.
Yep, well, there's 420 cows in this barn.
So how many people does it take to keep this thing running every day?
In the morning, there's 2 people fetching. We each take two groups, and it takes about an hour and a half each. And then the feeder's a separate person, and then there's a little bit. I do the maintenance as far as cleaning the milking robots, and then I take some time to clean the collectors, a little bit of upkeep on that, groom some stalls, and then in the afternoon fetch. The milkers come out of the parlor because we're still running the parlor some, so then there'll be 3 to 4 of us depending for an evening fetch, but it takes us about an hour if that. So it's pretty quick as far as labor in and out of here.
Yeah, that's pretty efficient for sure.
4 times a day just to get them trained.
For how long?
Some of them are just a few days, and others it's about a week to 10 days.
Okay.
We're cherry picking, just mainly bringing fresh heifers over here.
Yeah.
To they do really well learning.
Right. Right.
And then that's an investment in the future, because those will be the ones coming back for many more lactations.
Yeah. And are you seeing an increase in peak milk production from that? Do you know, or do you have a way to tell? I know you had Affy in the parlor.
We are definitely, the heifers are peaking higher than they were in the parlor. I think we're about 5 to 10 pounds of milk more here than in the parlor.
Nice. Nice. Now in the design and the whole decision-making thing, is there anything that you would change?
There's not much if anything I would change. I'm real happy with the barn design and the way it's flowing. One person can handle cows anywhere in the barn by themselves. Taking them in, taking them out, loading them, getting them to the robot, treatment. It was well thought out and very cool.
Go ahead. Super. Yeah, the cows look very comfortable. Well, Pete, can you tell us a little bit about what happens on a daily and weekly basis in this room?
Every day in the morning when I'm done doing my fetching, I go through each robot. I'll shut it down and go into today's actions, and I'll just rinse down the arm very thoroughly, open up the cups, rinse them all out, clean out my vents, clean the lenses, and then I'll disinfect with the chlorine dioxide foamer, and then I'll put it back into operation. And then in the afternoon during the cluster wash, we rinse down the arm again and disinfect it again. And then as far as weekly maintenance, on Fridays I will go through and I will calibrate the cups, the offset of the cups, and just make sure everything's as clean as can be. And today we went through with the Lely foamers, and scrubbed the arms.
So how many hours a week do you think you tie up into just the daily maintenance, robot, keeping them running kind of stuff?
I would say it's,
Or per day?
maybe an hour and a half per day as far as just cleaning and maintenance. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. And that's for 8 robots.
And that's for 8 robots,
Yeah, that's pretty good, yeah. And obviously the place looks beautiful, so you guys are doing it all the time.
Yeah.
Excellent, very good. Okay, Pete, can you tell me a little bit about what's going on in here?
Here we have the weigh jar. And with cow milk, it's going to fill up in here, and it holds that milk until she's done milking. And then it'll actually do a rinse cycle through these 2 extra hoses, rinse everything so the valves are clean before it then pumps down to the tank. As it's pumping down, it's taking a sample with the MQCC2. And
That's the schematic cell count reader?
Schematic cell count reader. Okay. And there's a reagent up in here that drips down, and there's a sensor in there, and it's reading that to check schematic cell. And it only does that once every 3 milkings unless it finds a high schematic cell, in which case it'll then start tracking per milking until it's cleared up. We have the main power panel here, and then there's the fescue valve for all the air valves.
Yep, that's the gates and
The gates and valves,
all of that.
Yep.
Yep, and these look like there's circuit boards behind here, and that's all your communication and the controls for the robot. How often do you have to monkey around in here?
We have the reagent we have to fill weekly, and then just rinse it down around the valve, make sure there's no buildup. But besides that, not too much.
Okay, cool. Hey Pete, can you tell us a little bit about what we're seeing on the screen here and what you can see in this robot screen?
Right now what we're seeing, you can see that who the cow is, how many lactation days, which lactation she is, and then it shows each individual quarter how much milk she's expecting, what she's expected to give here. And then I can click here, and I can see her daily production, expected visits. It's actually taking a temperature of her milk every time. I can see the connectivity of each individual quarter, and then it has a little bit of a lactation history as far as calving date, expected dry off, and reproduction. So you can have a basic overview of the cow right here at this robot. And then from here, if I have a cow with a problem, I can prolong it, or I can take off each quarter individually.
Destination and routing, as if you had sort gates, you can send her to
Right, yeah, we don't have sort gates yet.
Plate.
Yep.
Yep. And this milk's going to milk tank 1?
Yep.
That's the main tank.
The main tank's one, yeah.
Yep.